founders, if you will, of the population, of the breeding population. But there's some kind of, Morex didn't come out of thin air, right? And so Morex's, or M28 didn't come out of thin air. We can see it has one parent called F1, and these two, they both have a parent called F1. But we're not sure what the other parent is, so we sort of have to invent a parent, unknown 1 and unknown 2. And those would also go at that, first level for which we don't have any other parents. I don't see anything else. Do you? I think that's it. And so I would list those. So I've got this unknown parent for Morex, and I've got an unknown parent for M28. And so those two, along with F1 and Bumper, have to be considered the founders. And so we have to list those first. Then the next, Manker, I'm sorry, Manker is also part of that group of founders. The next thing I would do is I'd say that there's a level, if you will, or a set of lines that are part of that first generation of lines. And so what's the first generation of lines? Can we list those? Well, Morex and M28, I would say, are part of that first generation. And then I wouldn't consider Robust and Minnesota 72 as part of that first generation, because even though they came out of one of these founders, they depend on this first generation, Morex and M28. And then Minnesota 80, while it depends on one of these founders, it's actually further down in the pedigree. So it actually depends on a couple of generations before we list it. So I would now say, well, let's put Morex and M28 as part of that first generation. And then I would say, okay, now the second generation. And I'd start listing Minnesota 72 and Robust as part of that, as part of the next generation. And then I have to deal with the generation after that. And the generation after that has got Minnesota 80, Minnesota 77, and then there's a generation called Excel, and then lastly, Standard. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's pretty much what I had, except I didn't know how to deal with the unknown parents. So we just add in a set for unknown 1 and unknown 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're part of the founders.
Would we put in unknowns for the F1 parents, or just leave F1 as the kind of the start?
It's just the founder itself. It's in there to sort of as F1 as sort of a temptation to confuse you.
Okay.
Because usually when we say we have an F1, we think that we have an F1 not as a line, but as this hybrid.
Mm-hmm.
But no, that's not. It's actually its name.
Okay, so F1 and Bumper, because they are just coming in, we don't have to worry about their parentage. But
Right.
Since Morex and M28 are kind of already half explained, we create an unknown parent 1 and 2 for them. Okay.
Yeah. And Manker is the other one of these that we have to say this thing came out of some original set of lines, some original founder set. Somebody probably knows the pedigree to Manker, but at this point we haven't been given that information. Did I list this as AOA 9 instead of here? It looks like I did. This is actually AOA 11. So there's a typo there. That should be 11.
and then we just dive into the Excel spreadsheet we created in ALA2 and work from there, it looks like.
Well, yeah, you need to use this recursive tabular method to determine, all these coefficients of relationship among,
Right.
And you'll have to do them all. But mainly, what I want to know is what's the coefficient of relationship among these. So after you get your table, you'll have to pick certain cells out to tell me what those relationships are.
Sure.
Did you all pick up the most recent version of the class notes on population structure, which I hopefully have corrected all of the mistakes in this table now?
I got it yesterday afternoon. Were some made last night?
I don't remember. Look at the numbers in this one here, or the most recent one, and make sure that's what you've got.
Okay.
Yeah, and I put in some of these things in here so it becomes more, so you figure out, so you determine how I figured out GG, for example. But GG is the first one. It's not 1/2 on the diagonal. And so how did I come up with GG and HH? And so it turns out these others are figured out the same way, but sometimes you sort of forget that whenever you're asking something about itself, it's really this 1/2 times 1 plus the coefficient of inbreeding for G. What's the coefficient of inbreeding for G? It's the coefficient of relationship to G's parents, A and E. And you can just look back up in the table and say, oh, A and E is 1/4. So, it's 1/2 plus 1/4, which is 3/4.
Dr. Beavis.
Hi, Reginald.
Hey, I wanted to ask a question about just a little clarification between the coefficient of inbreeding and the coefficient of relationship.
Yep.
Would you say, and I may be totally off, but would you say that a coefficient of relationship is a represented value when two specific parents mate? Or
Yeah, it's really the relationship of two parents. Okay, it's a relationship of two lines, whereas the coefficient of inbreeding is a term that applies to an individual.
okay, it's so you could say that a coefficient of inbreeding is, say, a represented value when a parent is self.
Well, it's actually just not a parent self. It's just that individual. Okay, so and it turns out that individual, if you want to know its coefficient of relationship with itself, if you were going to self it, then it's equal to 1/2 times this 1 plus the coefficient of inbreeding for itself. And the coefficient of inbreeding for itself is the coefficient of relationship of its two parents.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah, so this f sub g is not the same thing as the coefficient of relationship of an individual with itself. Okay, so there's this little slippage that you have to be careful about.
I have a question about one of the files.
One of those files. Which one? Go ahead.
So I went to make sure I had the updated population structure file. And I saw there was some more added, but one of them is locked. Is it?
Oh.
It's regular systems of breeding.r.
Is that locked? Let's see. And there is something called regular systems of breeding. And let's see.
Yeah, that's still locked for me. I can't download that.
Let's see. So this is under modules, I guess. And under population genetics,
Yeah.
oh, I know what's going on. This R code here. Now, why is it locked right now? Did I fail? So that this here is actually a file. Let's edit this. Why would it not be available? Green R. It shouldn't be locked, but we'll find out why it is. Oh, there it is. It is locked. It's still locked. There we go. I don't know why it was. There's several of these that are that way. Well, it's not clear to me why they were locked.
It also looks like the data included in that's an FS PED file and the self PED file are the same.
The data look like they're the same?
For that one, yep, and then the bottom one, the self.ped.
Yeah, if you download the self PED, the title of the download is FSPED as well.
Well, hold on a second. They may or may not. They shouldn't be the same. Those files should be different from each other. So let me take a look at it. Okay, so this is the file that's for full SEB pedigree. And so if AB goes to C, AB goes to D, E goes, okay. So that is a full SIB pedigree. And then you said something else, looks like it's the same?
Yeah, when you try and download the selfped.csv, it's the fsped file instead.
That's the same one.
Yeah. So even though it says self-PED, it links to the FSPED file.
So the self-PED does not look like this?
Nope.
It's the same thing, yeah.
It looks like the FS one.
Yep.
It looks like the full SIB instead of the self.
Correct.
Yeah. And when you try and download it, it downloads it as FSPED. So it's just not linked to that self-PED file.
Well, let's see if we can't fix that then. Interesting. So there's probably, so I've taken care of making sure that these are now published. So that means the next thing is I need to go to this module, and I probably need to, it's probably because I linked them initially. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of these and connect them again. All right, now I'm going to try to connect them again to these files. All right. See if you get 3 different files now instead of just one file.
It looks like it's working right now.
So you're getting the 3 different files now
Yeah.
instead of just getting one file. Okay, good. And for the regular systems of reading, this R code, is this what it looks like for you?
Yeah, that looks right.
Okay. Good. Thanks. This Canvas system keeps me guessing most of the time. How about ALA 12? Any questions about that yet? This also says 9 when it should say 12.
Any hints you want to give? I kind of looked at it and said, nope, I'll wait till after Wednesday's lecture.
Now, these are the relationships among those lines that you had on your last exam. I don't know if you realized that. So here's your L lines
Mm-hmm.
and the parents of those L lines. This R1 came out of a different breeding pool because it's a food type of barley and or grain kind of barley, and these things here are the new set of lines that are supposed to be used for it's supposed to be used for the craft brewing industry. So I think if you look at these 2 different sets of, and I don't think there's anything on here that, the way I drew it, it's not anywhere near as complex as that barley one. You don't have to invent, I don't think you have to invent any unrelated parents to get to here. I think all the, looks to me like, nope, he's got one. He's got 2 parents. I think everybody's got 2 parents.
Sure.
Yeah, and
I didn't know if the pedigree program you were going to show us for R tomorrow was something we needed to do this. I guess I just kind of assumed that and
well,
didn't look at it.
yeah, it'll when we start getting to something this big, it's you still sort of have to set it up in some kind of row column table, and that's what we're going to do tomorrow with those CSV files that we just made sure that you had. They're just simple little toy examples, but yeah, you can imagine that if you had to set up that big matrix for all of these lines, that begins to be, and then start filling in the same way that we fill in that the one that I gave you with the either barley or what's the other one we did it with? The one in my class notes. So this, filling this in these, where you have to start in the left and you go, start here, go here, down here, go here, down, down, here, down, down, down. So, the way these things get filled in, where in order to calculate this thing, it's not very hard as long as you can go and find what you're looking for in the rest of because what you're looking for has already been calculated in some place before this. And so you're just filling in based on relationships that are part of the parentage of I. So, but that sort of thing for this large of a matrix, where now we've got A, B, C, D, G, E, G, H, I, J, and then so we've got IJ here, and we also have to deal with IJ over here. Okay, so IJ basically connect some of these craft brewing with this other kind of barley, this grain barley. So we have to sort of deal with the fact that there's some relationship among these things, which creates a bit of a challenge. Because now you've got to create a really big matrix. I don't know how many. So what is there? Q, T, Q, V. So there's 20. There's probably 35 rows and columns here instead of, what is this, 8, 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So instead of having 81 or 9 times 9, 81 of these cells to fill out, you have to deal with whatever it is, 35 times 35, divide by 2 rows and columns. It just, this methodology of this recursive tabular method is basically what happens inside the software, but the software means that you don't have to make mistakes like I did. When I first filled this thing out, I made mistakes because I get bored with things and my mind wanders and I don't do things right. So that's the kind of thing that computers are really good at, is just repeating things over and over again. And that's why I tomorrow will teach you how to get R to do this for you once you set up the table properly, the CSV table. Mm-hmm. And even so, setting up the CSV table is going to take, you have to be a little bit careful. Because, and I wish I could get to the point where we could feed it something like this and then it would translate that. And somebody somewhere is probably doing that. I know that when I worked at Pioneer in the late 80s, the mid to late 80s, the breeders, the corn breeders, said this is, they came up with a consensus way of writing pedigrees. And the reason they did is because the software developers said, you know what, we will be able to do this for you as long as all of you write your pedigrees the same way. But if you don't write them the same way, we'll never be able to create this table, and we'll never be able to do the other, because we can't get into your mind. And and most of the breeders at that time did not see the value of that, of knowing the relationships among the lines they were using in their stiff stock program or their non-stiff stock or the iodance or their various breeding programs, and some of them who were not part of the consensus said, well, I don't want to do that. I like to write my pedigrees the way I like to write them. And the answer to all of that at some point became, well, that's wonderful. Go find somebody else to pay you to write it the way you want to write it. And there were a fair number of plant breeders that left Pioneer because they didn't realize what they were being told, that they wanted to go to mixed linear models that would do a much better job of giving them estimates, and they sort of said, well, we don't believe you. And so and to be honest, when I first came to Iowa State in 2007, none of the academic programs that I came into contact with had kept pedigree records at all, except the wheat breeding program at Kansas State. And there was a guy named Stan Cox who later went to ICRASAT in India, but he set up he translated all of these very strange and idiosyncratic ways of writing pedigrees into a common pedigree writing method and translated them into these figures for wheat. And so he did that about the same time Pioneer was doing it for corn. It would be, like I say, once you get a common pedigree writing method that everybody can read, then a software developer can say, well, I know what a X means, I know what a star means, I know what a slash means, and so all of that can be translated into a big spreadsheet, and that big spreadsheet can then be used to come up with what are the coefficients of relationship. But you're going to have to do it by hand, because I haven't figured out how to do that. Besides that, it's kind of illustrative. It does illustrate a number of things, much like what Boris and Jonathan pointed out yesterday. I forget, I had something in here about H and E having no relationship. And Boris said, well, that can't be right. They both have B as a common parent. So the 0 you have in that cell can't be right, is what Boris said. And he was right. H and E should have some relationship. And you got to figure out what that is. So it's always, these graphics are very powerful because you can quickly see, well, does it make sense that A and F have no relationship? Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. But does it make sense that there's no relationship between H and E? No, it doesn't make any sense at all. So at least the zeros in here can be figured out pretty easily, as well as the places where there's 1/2 can be figured out very, very quickly. But then you have to spend a little bit of time saying, okay, what about the rest of the stuff? And it's helpful to have that graphic there to just, at least it is for me, to come up with what are these thetas.
The question I would ask then is for ALA 11, personally, would you redraw that graphic so that it's more laid out like the example here, rather than kind of with the parent without parentage kind of stuck in the middle? or do you just read through that the way that it's presented?
Oh, make up some parents that aren't there. Yeah.
Well, it's
yeah.
more what I'm getting at is that like Manker, the line Manker is introduced, and instead of it being off to the left or the right, it's introduced like right in the middle. I kind of understand why it's there, but it disrupts the flow, so to speak, compared to what you have here. I didn't know if you would personally then just redo the graphic. That's all.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, this. I suppose it could be drawn differently than.
No, I was thinking ALA 11, not 12.
No, I understand what you're saying. So, yeah. So should I put? I guess I could take Manker and put it over here, for example, and then have Robust be over here somewhere, and Minnesota 72 cross over. But the problem is you don't want lines to cross each other. Right? Maybe I could put Manker over here, but then I'd have a line crossing here too. So I'm not sure.
Might just be better to learn to read it this way then. Okay.
Yeah, it would take me a while to come up with a drawing that's different. And did I get this drawing right out of Bernardo's book? I might have. I don't know where I got it. I might have drawn it from his pedigree, but I don't remember at this point. That's a good question. Has anybody seen this drawing in Bernardo's book? If the answer is no, then probably I read the pedigree and came up with it. But I kind of doubt that I did that. We're dealing with stuff that's about 10 years old now. This would have been back in, there we go. No, I took it out of the book, figure 4.1. And he drew it in a way so that Manker is not kind of hanging out there by itself. Well, it kind of is. So, anyway, but not. So yeah, if you go and look at figure 4.1, you can sort of see where this thing came from. So I mostly copied it. Except for this F1 thing, which is says that those two lines came out of the same cross. They were full sibs of each other. And what I've told you to do is make them half sibs of each other by creating this artificial line that's not on the list. So yeah, the way Rex drew it, he said that Moritz and M28 are full sibs of each other. And what I wanted you to do is to say, let's treat them as though they're half sibs of each other. So they both have F1 as a common parent, but they've got some other parent that's unrelated. Any other questions?
I'm fresh out.
Okay.
So, yeah, I got one, sorry.
Okay.
So for question 2 of ALA 11, where do we start to put that information into the spreadsheet? Are we generating matrix A then, and then everything else will stay the same?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, you're just coming up with a new matrix A. And it'll be slightly different than what Rex used in his book because of this relationship between Moritz and M28. You know, he said they're full sibs of each other, and I said that they're half sibs of each other. So it'll be slightly different.
Okay. And then we just run a correlation at the end of it to see how they're correlated or not.
Yeah, you can do that. Yeah. So you'll have these predicted values that that you will have generated for each of these lines. So there's 4 predictions done each of these 2 different ways, and so are they correlated? Okay, if that's it, I will let you all have at it, have fun, and I'll let you go. How's that sound?
Sounds good to me. Thanks
All
for
right,
your
thank
time.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Sure. See y'all.
What's up, guys?
Living that stats life.
I waited way too long to tackle this assignment.
This assignment?
No, the 2 from last week.
Oh, yeah.
Or
I
the,
don't
sorry,
even-
the 3 from last week.
Yeah, I still need to watch the lecture from yesterday, so I'm behind already.
I am also behind.
I think I'm going to stick around for probably maybe an hour and a half or so to start getting the kinship values done for these.
All right, I'm back. Ugh.
What's going on?
The run for basketball to playoffs is going on tonight. So my son and exchange student are going to that and are nuts. Plus our high school hockey team is going to state, so they're all crazy about that.
Sweet.
Yeah, well, it's nice, but they're going to get back Thursday morning at like 3 in the morning, and they're trying to figure out how late they can sleep in until they have to absolutely go to school. Yeah. So where are we at? What are we doing?
Just getting started.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick around for a bit and start doing these kinship values for the pedigree.
Yep, that's kind of where I'm at. I at least built my Excel file.
So when he's talking about the file from ALA2, that's the one we created with all the matrices?
Yeah, our homework, the one we turned in.
Yeah.
The broken one, yeah. So at the end of this, we'll just get a new A matrix, I guess, and then we'll put that into all the formulas we have.
It should, in theory, be pretty simple, I would imagine, but
Yeah, I mean, it shouldn't be too bad.
All right, I'm trying to figure out the parentage of robust just so I got it in my head. So it's Morex, which is F1 and unknown parent 1, which comes out as a 0.5, right? Morex to Morex is 0.5.
Yep.
So it's that and Manker. And Manker I have as 0.5.
Yeah, me too.
So it's...
So the ones I have as 1/2 are Manker, Bumper, Morex, and M28.
Okay, you should have an unknown 1 and unknown 2 in there as well, as the other parent for M28 and the other parent for Morex. I don't know if you heard him say that or not.
Do we? Oh, okay, I see what you mean. Because it'll come in handy later. Yeah. Yep.
And he said to put it in, so I've got it set up as F1, then maker, then bumper, then unknown 1, then unknown 2. He kind of said that was your first line of parents.
Okay. Are you using unknown 1 as your other parent for Morex?
I'm using it for M28.
Okay.
Here, I'll share. Makes sense?
Maker, bumper, yeah.
So what I'm trying to figure out is for this one right here for robust, which is Morex and Maker. Of course, Maker is going to be half. Morex it's a quarter and plus a half. Is that right? Or am I thought I can't remember that.
For robust or for Morex?
For robust.
Let me try to find an example on the diagram.
It's H. So it'd be H to H on the diagram. It comes out as 3/4 the way that he did it, but I want to understand make sure I know what's going on.
H to H. Now, when I printed that file, it got all corrupted in his formulas. Oh, it's messed up on the document too here. That's weird.
You have this, right? Or is that what's corrupted?
The bottom, so I'm looking at theta GG on the bottom.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's like yours too, where it has those weird.
I think I think that's his corrections that he made. I don't know why, but
Yeah, but it looks like something
let me see if I
divided by 4 there.
Yeah, I'm gonna check something quick. I took some screenshots yesterday. Nope, I don't have that. Dang it.
Yeah. I downloaded mine today and it looks fine.
I just re-downloaded it and it was the same for me.
Oh, weird.
Do you have a Mac?
No, I have a.
Why do you say the dirty word? I work with a Mac at work.
I think I took a picture of his PowerPoint. Maybe.
Wonder how these would translate into here. Oh, what happened? Oh, yeah, because he makes them those little images.
Yeah, I just re-downloaded it too, Zach, and it's doing the same thing for me still.
when you print them?
No, just downloading the file and opening it in Word.
Oh,
Mine's
Get
printed. Yeah, I printed mine. And it printed with the error or whatever it is.
Yeah, it's equals 1/4 equals 1/4. What I don't get is the theta GG is equals 1/2 of 1 plus FG all of a sudden becomes equals 1/2 plus theta of AE.
Yeah, I think there's something missing there.
That's just bizarre. And he said he changed it so that we'd understand how he got GG. And I don't understand. And I didn't think to ask that question until right now.
Cassandra, what does yours say at the bottom? Do you have that same table?
I was talking to myself. From the population genetics handout,
Yeah.
page 12,
Yes.
and you guys are reading the last equation?
Yep.
Yeah, I had what you guys just read out too. Theta GG equals 1/2 times 1 plus FG equals 1/2 plus theta of AE equals 1/2 plus 1/4 equals 3/4.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does anybody know why he's using fractions instead of decimals? Because it looks like when we go back to ALA2, we're going to need our decimals and not fractions.
You can just type the fractions into Excel and it'll make the decimals for you.
Yeah, but just, back and forth. I don't know what 29/30 seconds works out to, so.
Yeah, I don't know.
.50 metros.
Okay.
I gotta jump off for a couple minutes. I'll be back. Anybody got a clue?
I started with the easy ones.
Well, I'll share what I've got.
Oh, yeah,
you're
go
gonna
ahead.
share. No, go ahead.
So this is what I have so far.
I just wanted to compare.
And then my pedigree, or whatever you want to call it, on the right.
28. Okay, we pretty much have filled it out almost exactly the same, except I have robust with itself as 0.75, just copying his formula. I'm not sure why.
Robust with itself.
Yeah. As far as in the spreadsheet. Robust by robust, yeah.
You're saying that's the same as theta GG.
I'm saying it's, no, not the same as theta GG. I'm saying it's the same as H. If you look on there. So it's the product of C and D, which creates F, and then F goes to H, and then B is brought down.
Yeah, same thing, yeah.
That's what I'm saying that equates to. Now, I could be wrong, but that's how I'm doing it right now.
F to A. I think it'd be more CD to F. F to A.
Because, yeah, you got C, D to F, and unknown 1, which is what I have for unknown 1 and F1 to make Morex. So you've got that, and then they provide to robust, and then you've got some outside one, unrelated one.
Yeah,
that
you're right.
comes in. So that's all I'm saying. And he's got it as 3/4, but I want to figure out why. And it seems like it's half, it's basically half of whatever Morex is plus, half, Manker gives half, and then half of what Morex gives, whatever Morex's value is. Something like that. I'm not handling these formulas well at this
Well, I could look at it as, so if you have Morex to F1 to Morex is 1/4.
Yep.
Plus.
Oh yeah, F1 to Morex is 1/4, Manker to Robust, and then Morex passes that quarter on.
Each arrow that leads to robust is considered 1/4.
Yep.
So F1 to Morex is 1/4. Morex to robust is 1/4.
Yep.
Plus
Manker is half.
Yep.
Yep.
Well, Manker to robust is 1/4.
Oh, I got you. So F1 to Morex is 1/4 for robust. Morex to robust is 1/4 for robust, and Manker is 1/4 to robust. Okay, got it.
Yep.
Going up into the matrix rather than just the diagonal column. I got you. Well, that makes sense if that works. That's a great way of looking at it.
And that should be the same for MN72 as well.
That almost seems too easy.
Well, it's not.
Because then robust.
They're not all going to be that. Because if you did like MN, so for example, MN80's relationship with F1 is going to be a lot more.
Yeah, but I'm saying robust's relationship with F1 should be 0.5 then, correct? Because it's 1/4 to Morex and 1/4 to robust. So does it go back that way as well?
Robust to F1.
Yep.
1 to Morex would be.
No, because it says it's 1/8 in the other one. H to C on the population genetics paperwork is 1/8.
H to C, yeah.
So it's gotta, yeah, there has to be some backwards. It doesn't quite go the right way backwards. I admit this math is kicking my butt, but
H.
well, I guess that kind of, well, H to B is a quarter, which we just agreed is what it should be. But H through F to C is actually 1/8.
Say that again.
Okay, so looking at the thing, it's saying H to B is 1/4, which makes sense. It's half of B's value. And then H to C is 1/8. So it's half of H's value through F, and then and then half of the value from F to C. Does that jive?
Trying to find where you found, so G to B is considered an H. Or considered an H.
I'm looking at H to C on the the table. I'll just call it that in the population genetics reading. I think I'd like to do that. So sounds like I get to go to a basketball game here, so I'm going to jump off for an hour and a half or so. Is anybody going to be around?
I'm probably going to take off before then.
All right.
I can I'll post whatever I have done, within the next half hour or so here, and then we can.
Yeah, if you have any insights and you guys want to post it, go ahead. I'm just going to leave the chat up, so if anything gets put in, I'm going to leave the Zoom up, so if anything gets posted in the chat, I'll see that too.
Okay.
See you later, guys.
Sounds good. Have fun.
Hey Zach, how did you get your value for M28 to the unknown 2? Unknown 2, M28, yeah, H4?
Let's see. Unknown 2 to M28. That one?
Yeah, yeah.
Let's go. Because that's one of its parents. Can you see my Word document here?
Yeah, I see that now. Okay.
Yep.
28.
So any any siblings relationship to its parents is a quarter.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So anytime where it's easy like that, like for example, bumper to MN80 is a quarter as well.
Yeah, okay. Okay, and then how are we calculating the robust to robust, the 3/4?
So that was, we were saying it's getting a quarter of each of its, parentage or kinship from, so F1 to Morex gives a quarter, and then Morex to robust is another quarter, and then Manker to robust is another quarter.
Maker to robust, marks. Sorry, can you repeat that?
So you kind of just view it as how many, it's probably not the correct way to look at it this far, but how many arrows are pointing at it. So if you have F1 to Morex, and then Morex to robust, and then Manker to robust.
Okay.
I'm trying to figure it out based on the notes we were given, but I'm having trouble finding the formula.
Mm-hmm. All right, I gotta go. I'll talk to you guys later. Good luck.
Sounds good. See ya.